couple months ago I made a video about this sandbag. Since then, some of you guys have asked me how this sandbag has held up and how we use it here in our training. Today I'm going to answer both of those questions. I'm going to give you my opinions of this bag in particular after using it for a few months, and I'm going to show you some of the unique ways that we use sandbag training in general with our clients and with our athletes. But it's about to rain, so we're going to have to go inside. What's going on, Perform24 family? Levi Jaeckel back with another video, back in the gym at Perform24 in Tampa, Florida. Today, we're going to be talking about sandbag training. We're going to talk about sandbag training just in general first, and then we're going to get to the specific bag and then some of the specific ways that I use it here in the gym. Okay, so probably the best benefit that a sandbag gives you is the unpredictability and the inconsistency in the movement. When we're training with other pieces of equipment, whether that's a barbell or a dumbbell or kettlebells, we're trying to replicate the exact same movement every time we do the exercise, right? Consistency in our technique is everything for those types of movements. It is not the case with the sandbag. With the sandbag, every rep can be different, which just creates a completely new challenge that you might not be used to in your regular training. So that's probably the big reason why I like to use sandbags. Just because, I'm working with athletes and I'm working with active adults, and they work in environments that aren't always consistent. Sometimes they need to be reactive and sometimes they need to be able to handle an unpredictable situation. So throwing a sandbag into their training kind of gives them that unpredictable element. Second thing that comes with sandbag training is that the sandbag is going to get destroyed. Just by the nature of the sandbag, every single time you pick it up and you have to put it to the ground, it's getting slammed to the floor. It's getting drug on the floor. The handles are getting yanked up off of the floor. I only have one sandbag for me and all of my clients, and it's a 60-pound sandbag. So that thing is taking a beating. It's got 60 pounds of weight slamming on it all the time. You really have to pull on those handles to get 60 pounds up to your shoulders. So it takes an absolute beating. That is one of the reasons why I went with a GORUCK sandbag. I explained a little bit more in depth on the last video, but a couple of you guys have asked me how this one is held up. The last sandbag that I was using ended up breaking, which is why I needed a new one to begin with, and that's why I got a GORUCK to begin with. You can look at the other videos why I chose that one. But after a couple months, and this thing gets used all the time, right? I said I only have one sandbag, so all my clients are using this throughout the day. I use it in my own training, and that thing doesn't have a blemish on it. It's a little dirty at this point, which we'll talk about cleaning here in a second, but it is a little dirty, but as far as there's not a single loose thread on it at all. So I'm very happy with that, even just after a few months. And because it's here in the gym, it's gonna get used way more than if one person were to buy it and just use it in their own training, a couple times a week or whatever. So this thing's getting used all day, it's getting slammed all day, drug all day, rolled all day, thrown all day, and there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Before I forget this, let's talk about the cleaning really, really fast. The cleaning is going to be super easy because a lot of people are using it. I do want to keep it clean. So what I do is I just take that liner bag out, right? So I take the liner bag of sand out, so I just have the loose sandbag. And then I just fill like a bucket of water, warm water, throw a little dish soap in there. Dish soap is really good with grease. So you can just throw the outer liner, which is just a loose bag, into a bucket or a bin of water and soap. Rub it all around, maybe get a brush even, just kind of rub that out and keep it nice and clean, get it nice and soapy sudsy. Rinse it off, hang it up to dry. That's literally all I'm gonna do to clean it. It does need a cleaning soon. So maybe I'll film that when I do that so you can actually see it. But super, super easy to clean. Take the liner bag out, wash the outer lining, the actual bag with the handles, and then it's all nice and sanitary again. All right, so now let's talk about how I actually use this sandbag in our training. So for those of you guys that don't know, my background is in sports performance. I work with professional athletes, and then I work with local, we call them lifestyle athletes. So they might not be training for a specific event or a specific sport, but they're all about that life, right? They're all about that training life. So if you were to look at GORUCK's training content, their training population is a little bit different than my training population. And their training styles are a little bit different than my training styles. Now, I've learned a lot from their training content, and I do bring some of their elements into the gym and into our clients' programming here, but I also use it in a little bit different way. So I use this in a little bit more sports performance way that you're not gonna see on GORUCK's content. I think that a sandbag is one of my favorite ways to load the anterior core. So we do a ton of anterior core work with the sandbag. I think that it's superior even to like front-loaded kettlebells, a front-loaded barbell, and some other pieces of equipment. I just think it nails your anterior core better than anything else that you can use. So because of that, I will throw an anterior loaded, like a front loaded sandbag carry into a whole bunch of different movements. And that's kind of gonna be the theme for what you see in my training compared to how you see a sandbag used in some other, environments. So we use front loaded farmer's walks with the sandbag all the time. And remember, this is a 60-pound bag. And I use this with our adults, I use this with pro athletes, I use this with our ladies. I'll throw some ladies on this and it will crush your core. So anterior farmer's walk where you're just staying tall, you've got that front loaded carry, and you're just bracing through, 60 yards or 70 yards or something like that. I will also throw that on lunge variations. So we can do a front-loaded walking lunge, which is killer. I've got a front-loaded lateral lunge, which I'll show here in a second. This was a professional pitcher. We're doing a front-loaded lateral lunge with a sandbag. Great exercise. Another thing that we can do is we can offset a load, right? So we can throw that sandbag over one shoulder to give you like kind of an offset lateral stability component. Same exact thing. So offset lateral lunges, offset forward lunges. The offset farmer's walks aren't too bad. I don't think that they're quite as challenging as like a single arm farmer's walk or a suitcase carry or something like that, which I would rather use a kettlebell in that situation. But all your lunge variations with an offset sandbag is killer. And then finally, like I do use that sandbag for rucking. I will throw that on my shoulder. We have a big field out back, and I will go do, a mile or a mile and a half with that big bag on. I do use rucking, and I do encourage clients of mine to ruck in specific situations. I think that there's going to be some content coming up on like rucking for athletes. It's a little bit different than like rucking for us normal people who don't have a competitive season coming up. But I have found some interesting benefits to light and structured rucking for athletes, and maybe I'll make that into a future video. So that's gonna wrap this video up. Nice, short, and sweet. So sandbag training. If you're not using a sandbag in your training, I think you'll get a lot of benefit out of it. It just brings a completely different element that you're not gonna be used to. We've kind of nicknamed that sandbag the bear, just because you have to wrestle with it every single time you're using it. So it's kind of like that farm boy strength. That Iowa farm boy strength. It just brings a little bit of an unpredictable element to your exercise. That sandbag in particular is literally bulletproof. Like I haven't had a single issue with it, and we use it hard. And then finally, just showing you kind of some creative examples on how we use the sandbag to serve our specific population. If you want to tune into our Instagram page, I post a lot of the sandbag exercises on our Instagram page. Usually I post that into our stories, so they're kind of like there and gone. But follow us on Instagram if you want to see a little bit more of the day-to-day training. If you guys like the video, obviously a thumbs up goes a long ways. I'm making this video today because somebody commented and asked me a question about how this sandbag is holding up yesterday. So it kind of like kicked me into gear to make this video now. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. But in the meantime, train hard, live full, and I'll see you in the next video.